to myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. Delighted to say I'm joined by Supermac, Malcolm MacDonald. Good evening, mate.
All right, how are you, Steve?
Very good. Good to see you, and plenty to talk about. Even though it is the close season, it's never a dull moment at Newcastle United. And our first player through the doors, Matt Targett, of course, somebody we're all familiar with after a successful loan spell. And this is the little quote that we got from the official club Twitter feed. I hope I can be part of this club playing in Europe, and if we can try and do that in the next few seasons, it would be massive achievement. I'm also not going to give up on playing for England. That will be a main target going forward. So first one through the door, Mal. Delighted to have him, despite the negativity surrounding that potential move. People suggesting maybe his wife wasn't keen on the move, etc. But if there was any doubts, it's now been allayed, and he is a Newcastle United player.
Yeah, good for him. There was no guarantee at Aston Villa that he'd get first team football. In fact, it seemed quite unlikely. Personally, I would take Matt Targett before the guy that's replaced him at Aston Villa. I'd like to see him getting forward a bit more. I think that the way that the Premiership is played, that it needs fullbacks to be a lot more adventurous. And I think that he's very much a defensive fullback, but he needs to get forward. But no, I'm quite happy with his signing, and there's others on the horizon. And of course, this is the period of time where all the footballing websites, the newspapers, because they're having to fill column inches and program hours. There's all sorts of nonsense being thrown all over the place, of all the different players that Newcastle United fancy, when they've actually said that they're in a limited situation just at the moment. That it can't be a massive rate spend over the summer. I think they've quoted 60 million, haven't they?
Yeah.
But nevertheless, I think that there's Nikita Key sounds as if that's a runner, a serious runner, and it could be very interesting. Could that one? Very interesting indeed.
Something that might affect that is he's just gone off injured. He is playing tonight. He's gone off not badly injured. It's a hamstring injury by the looks of it. So he has limped off.
And he's only a youngster, isn't he? Oh yeah. Dear. Do you know? Hamstring.
There's a picture of him going off there, Mal. Injured
really?
for the France under 20s team. Yeah, French under 20s.
I always get concerned and quite suspicious about hamstring because it's one of those things. It keeps recurring, and oh dear. Well, I shall keep looking out on that to see if he recovers quickly from it, and that might be a good sign. But if it takes a while, because he's with the French under 20s, isn't he, at the moment?
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh dear.
Well, let's hope he pulls through. The other one, the other one other than Hugo Ekitike is Sven Botman, of course, potentially going to be wearing a Newcastle United shirt. This is one that we were keen on, of course, last transfer window in January. But it sounds as if Newcastle United have agreed a fee with Lille for Sven Botman. Talks are clearly ongoing with regards to personal things with the agent, etc.
Sure, but he's involved in international football as well, isn't he? At the moment, And so really he's got to concentrate on playing his games, and then once that's all over, then you can get down to transfer talk with agents and other clubs and what have you. But it's always difficult when you're called up for international, because you're tired from the season. You're really wanting to impress for your international future, but at the same time you've got all this newspaper talk and clubs continuing negotiations and what have you all over your future, and if that's the case, then you've got to actually start to work on moving house and family to an entirely new and different country. It's going to be one hell of a summer for the lad. Well, both lads, hell of a summer.
Yeah, 100%. Okay, any questions for Malcolm? Get them in. Gibbo's getting back from his holidays today, so didn't want to take the gamble of announcing him in case he didn't get back. So he will be back with us. He will be back with us next week.
Right.
The other news,
thankfully, he's not using airports at all.
Yeah. The other big news this week is the new strip, Malcolm. New strips. I mean, we've seen plenty of these. It's the 130 years shirt. I think it's quite tidy. I love the colour, and
I do.
It's very nice.
And the sleeve edging, yes, yeah. I think it's a very neat, tidy shirt. Is that? It's sleek. I found last year's shirts rather bizarre, because it had a 4 on it, in the way that the Fun 88, it was slightly it wasn't square at all. It was shaped in such a way that it just made the 2 central stripes look like a 4. And I didn't like the appearance of it at all. But what I've seen of this new season shirt, yeah, that'll do me. Yeah, it's neat, it's tidy, and it's good looking.
Yeah, no, it is very nice. Give us your views on the shirt and let us know what you think in the chat. Plenty of time to go, so get your questions and messages in. Also announced today that the Premier League clubs have unanimously agreed to maintain the current £30 cap on away ticket prices for the next 3 seasons, Malcolm. Great news for those Newcastle fans like myself who go on the road every season.
Absolutely brilliant news, because it's not just the cost of the ticket; it's all the travel that fans go to the cost of, and in the end, good heavens above, going to an away game, if tickets and they used to be at silly prices, some of the clubs, that you could finish up spending maybe 120 quid on maybe more, maybe a lot more, to get to see your team and get back home. And I thought, no, travelling fans, you've got to give all consideration to them, that there are a lot of other costs than just the ticket price. So I think that what the football community are doing over this is absolutely right. It's only a small percentage of what goes into the ground, but it's what they've gone through to get there and what they've got to go through again to get back home, and that's all got to be taken into consideration, these things.
Yeah, no, it definitely has. It's nice to to see the fans getting something early from the Premier League clubs as well. It's so often we end up with being the ones who get left behind or get ignored. So it is nice to see the supporters getting awarded. Okay, well, I've got a few questions coming in, so we'll go with Richard Morris's first. He says, "Who would Malcolm buy if he had £60 million to spend on one player?"
Yeah, but that's so limiting. I think that the way that Newcastle are looking at it at the moment, it won't be far off 60 million that they spend and they'll bring two players in, and they will seriously improve the squad. I'm never one to go crazy with regards to the transfer market. When I was a manager, I didn't really spend money at all. I always looked very carefully at what was already there in the club, and how we could improve to get youngsters coming through into the first team. But you can't always rely on youngsters, and the game very much now it's all so immediate. I understand that, but there are good players around who are nowhere near 60 million, and Newcastle aren't in that bracket at the moment. I don't think. Get yourself into the top six, and then maybe you can start to think in that way. But even then, I'd have my doubts. You look at Botman, terrific player, Niki Taki, and if the two of those would have come in, that's serious improvement to the side, and it's all done for less than 60 million.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I wonder, and somebody tell me what Newcastle need beyond those two players that I've just mentioned, and for heaven's sake, who's really worth 60 million, for heaven's sake? Because there's all sorts of other additions and what have you that go on the top, players' contracts and what have you, and it finishes up. It's absolutely stupid money. I've been watching Grealish over the past 12 months, and he cost £100 million. Do you think that he was worth that? Did he get anywhere near to being worth it? The best I've seen him play was for 10 minutes in the England game against Germany. And other than that, I really can't see where Man City could reasonably feel that they were getting their money's worth from the lad.
Yeah, incredible, really. Geordie Toomba says, "Malcolm, having seen you play all of your home games for Newcastle, who was the toughest defender that you came across but still admired? Thanks in advance," he says.
Yeah, yes. There was a lot of dirty ones. There were, and the question is phrased very, very well, I have to say, because you can play against tough defenders, but if they're clocking you with their elbows and all the time seeking to foul you can't have a respect, let alone an admiration for them. But there were two defenders who played together, and both were of an incredible resoluteness in the way that they went about the game. They were quite different players, but they complemented each other so well. And to play against them, by heavens, you had to really be absolutely on song to get any success against them. And that was Roy McFarland and Colin Todd, who used to be at Sunderland. Roy McFarland, he was as hard as nails, but he didn't go looking to foul you in any way. If he did, it was never on purpose. He genuinely was just going for the ball all the time. And he finished up getting himself seriously hurt at times. I've seen him have a massive, great gash across his forehead. It must have been about 6 inches long. And he didn't even go down wanting the trainer to come on. He just carried on playing. Blood everywhere. They wouldn't do that these days, of course, because of the greater medical knowledge of what blood could contain. But back then it was just blood squirting all over the place, and he didn't care. He just got on with the game, doing his job. Colin Todd, who played alongside of him, where Roy McFarlane was very much an attacker of the ball in the air, and a hell of a good tackler. Colin Todd, he was pace, real speed, and I just had a very slight edge on him, but it was very slight, and so to make a shooting opportunity against those two players, by heavens, you really had to get your timing absolutely right. In terms of hard man, Roy McFarlane, in terms of real pace and defensive acumen, Colin Todd. And the two of them, they were together. That was Cloughie's choice. That they were the two centre halves that he put together when he was at Derby, and they were absolutely brilliant together. Brilliant pairing.
Okay, next question is this one from Mag Debates. He says, Mal, which player did you really want when you were a manager, but the club could not afford? It's a good question, that.
It is a good question. Oh dear. Yes, I went and looked at a number of players only to find that they were sort of out of our depth. But I only ever bought one player, and that was in over 5 years, and it was a lad called Tony Seeley. Bought him from QPR. Very good goal scorer, excellent goal scorer. Paid £60,000 for him, and I had to implore my chairman. I had to plead with him. I had to convince him that the player really was worth that kind of money, you know. So having bought him in my time at Fulham as manager, it worked out that I had spent £12,000 per season. That was it, and still my chairman was complaining.
Brilliant.
Yeah, it's a very intriguing thing, is the transfer market. That these days it's all made so much easier because you can bring up on YouTube and heaven knows what other platforms you can bring up all of the games that you want to look at a certain player in. You can more or less follow him all the way through the season without getting out of your armchair, which is great these days. But back in the 80s and previously, you had to drive all over the country, and when you watch a player, it's all very well watching him at home, but I tended to watch them far more away from home, because that's the bigger test. What are they able to do on somebody else's patch? and and it was an interesting. It was an interesting. I must tell you, this was when I was managing Huddersfield, and near Huddersfield was a town called Halifax, and Halifax had an evening game. And I said to my chairman, I said, look, there is a youngster playing tonight at Halifax, and I think that we should go and have a look at him. He said, oh, right, who is it? I said, his name's David Platt, and he was only about 18 at the time. I said, so let's get over there. He said, all right, oh, great. So over we went, and we sat, and in the first 20 minutes, there was this lump playing, it was sort of up front, but not quite up front, and it was just a lump, and I kept looking at the team sheet. I'm saying, that's not David Platt. I know that's not David Platt, but it was David Platt on the team sheet, and so we left after about 25 minutes. It was just a complete waste of time, and of course he then signed for Aston Villa, and he went on to play for England, scored a lot of goals. But I know that the player that I saw at Halifax wasn't David Platt. I was convinced of it. They just didn't look. He didn't look anything like David Platt at all. He was a bit too tall. He was a bit too podgy, and I found that rather frustrating. Who he was, I don't know, but it had me scratching my head, I have to say.
I bet. Some great questions coming in. Usually we get some of the old questions which we know and have answered many times, but these are really good. I'm pick a couple of quick fire ones. Jack Hatfield says, best Newcastle player ever, Malcolm, Gazza or Alan Shearer?
Gazza or Alan Shearer?
Mm-hmm. For you?
I can't compare Gazza and Alan Shearer.
Difficult one, isn't it? Yeah.
I can't make the comparison because they're totally different players, played in different positions, and I'm very loath to make comparisons. I like to look at a player and just assess him for what he is, what he's worth, what he's capable of. But if you look to make comparisons, or the only comparison you make is he better than what I've got in my team at the moment? And if the answer is yes, then keep looking. But Gazza was a totally different type of player to Alan Shearer. Both were absolutely brilliant. Alan Shearer, absolutely phenomenal goal scorer, and despite the fact that he lacked pace, he still got there. He made himself half a yard of space, and boy was he able to crack his shots in. And Gazza, he was just a complete one-off, absolute one-off. Never seen anything like him at all. And do you know what I think that the real crime at Newcastle United was the fact that they got rid of him and Chris Waddle all in one season, and they were just kids.
One kids after another.
Yeah. When it happened, I just found myself shaking my head, saying, "What the hell are they doing? They must be absolutely skint and desperate for money." That's all I could think.
Richard Morris says, does Malcolm think Jonjo Shelvey will be a regular next season, or would he move him on? Do you think he'd just be a squad player if he stays, Mal?
Personally, considering what his age is, I would move him on now, because I think, particularly if this Nikita comes in, I think that we are going to be well served in midfield. Well served. Do you keep him as a squad player? I think there are others who can be relied upon. Jonjo Shelvey lacks pace. The Premiership demands pace. And Jonjo, bless him, because he lacks pace, he has to slow the game down, and he's slowing the game down to a pace that other Newcastle players don't want to play at. It's got to be at his pace, because he can't keep up with the quicker pace of others. And he's very good at controlling the game, but it doesn't work. And I think that we saw that leading up to Christmas last, with a dreadful run of results that Newcastle had, because it wasn't working. Nothing was working, and yet there was Jonjo Shelvey looking brilliant in midfield, but the rest of the team just wasn't functioning. And so I feel that there are other ways to go, and considering his age, I would personally say, Jonjo, you need to play, so let's get your club elsewhere.
Yeah, okay. Next question is from John Askew. He says, hi all, Mal, you love playing with John Tudor, but what about Alan Gowling? He says, I know Gordon Lee was a factor on this one.
Yes, he was. And people might not be aware, but Alan Gowling came in the closed season, and I found myself being played more in a midfield role, which was crazy, absolutely crazy. But I continued to get forward and get goals. And I think overall in all competitions I pipped him by one, I think it was. He scored more league goals, but I scored a lot more cup goals. And of course, that season we got to the League Cup final against Man City. And with Alan, I found I made him a lot of goals. But he was a player who didn't make it for others. He would score, certainly, and everybody benefited by that. But he didn't set other people up at all. But what happened at the beginning of the season, and whether or not this caused Gordon Lee to start messing about with me, he came into the dressing room and he stood in front of me and he said to me, I have just signed the man who is going to score more goals than you. And I just looked at him and I said, he doesn't exist.
I love that answer, like.
and so I was played in midfield, but I still getting forward all the while, and scored a lot of goals.
Yeah, okay. We'll just do a quick ad break. We've got plenty of questions. Got enough to get through the next half. So thank you for sending them all in. Big shout out to Nathan and Gareth at Spider Miner. Worldwide coverage from the lads there. And it is the only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies at the same time whilst using virtually no energy. And it's VPN protected. Buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Thanks to Scott and the lads at skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com, easy contract free and pay as you go waste collection. Thanks to L&G Family Funeral Directors, 01913897245. And a Garden of Healing dispensary, CBD hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.thegohd.com. Thanks to QTech, shop.co.uk, the makers of pool table and snooker tables in Wallsend, Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. And thanks to ClearKai, meet the new Game Over screen, drop into a ClearRun device near you, available on Apple Store, Google Play, and clearrun.game. Thanks to Media Arts for the help with the video side of things. And if you want to subscribe, hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can subscribe for free. We still do 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up to like the video, click share to share to your social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. We're also available as a podcast on iTunes, Spotify, and other podcast providers. Usually goes up 24 hours after the show has finished on YouTube. If you want to become a member, you can either click join underneath the video, or you can put your smartphone over the QR code and it takes you straight to the place on the website. If you do it that way, you get a cup, a pen, a membership card, and a scarf, and entry into the monthly draw. And of course, it's for a season ticket or a cash equivalent, and that will be next week. If you are a subscriber already, you can apply for your NUFC Matters car sticker by emailing John at nufcmatters.com. Don't forget, we do support the food bank, NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk. The match day bucket is virtual. It is there 365 days of the year. Make sure you put a little donation in there to help the food bank. And our end of season do, Friday the 24th of June, is edging ever closer. Tickets are £12 or £15 for an event at Shearer's Bar, 24th of June. Doors are at 7 o'clock. Mick Lowes and Andy Griffin are doing the chat on stage. Last chance to get your raffle tickets as well for the Alan Shearer Ball, $2.99 a ticket, and there's 99 tickets left at the website nufcmatters.com. 10 tickets left for that, so make sure you enter. We will be drawing that tomorrow. And last chance as well for tickets for the screening of The Crazy Gangsters Behind Bars, which is in aid of St Bede's Palliative Care Unit in memory of me mum, which takes place Saturday the 11th of June, and that'll be in the concert room at the Irish Centre. Doors are at 12, screening 12:30. Tickets are £5, and all proceeds are going to the palliative care unit who looked after me mum in her final days. So if you can get along to that, please do. Thanks to those who bought tickets who can't make it. You can buy those tickets from nufcmatters.com if you want to support that event. Thanks to everybody who has. Okay, GM, thanks for this one. He says, "Hi Mal, my 8-year-old son Lennon thinks you're amazing, and he loves looking into the past of NUFC. He says, what advice would you give to an aspiring 8-year-old that wants to wear the black and white just like you did?"
It's a very, very good question. It really is. And it's lovely to see youngsters who are so keen and want to just get better and better and better. My advice would be never be afraid to miss. And why I say that is that it's amazing how many footballers they'll have a shot, and this is even at the very highest levels of the game, that they'll get into the team and they'll have a shot at goal and it goes wide. And they get put off having another go, and maybe they'll have another go some 2 weeks later, and that goes wide as well, or it goes over the bar. And so they get turned off of shooting. If you are going to score goals, you have to miss. The game is as simple as that for And if you think along those lines, okay, that didn't come off, I'm going to keep practicing. Practice all the time. When I joined Newcastle, I continued to do exactly what I've been doing at Luton. As soon as the coach said, okay, training session's over, I would say, right, goalkeeper, bag of balls, and even get a winger to come and cross the ball, and we'd work on crosses, we'd work on shooting, all from different areas of the pitch. And so the keepers were getting good practice in, but I was all the time, you look to narrow your shooting down and until you've got a huge percentage of accuracy. But it takes time and it takes hard work to get to that, and never be afraid to miss. Keep shooting and keep working on just narrowing it down, to sticking it as many times as you can between the sticks, and enjoy it. Always enjoy it. You will be a much better player when enjoying the game. And so what I did as a youngster, and I'm not so sure that it can be done these days, because it's very much in age groups. But when I was at school playing in a good level of football in the school leagues, that when I was sort of 14, I started playing with the 17 and 18-year-olds, and they were bigger than me, they were stronger than me, and I would get booted all over the place. But it was all experience for me. It was learning how to deal with those difficulties, and overcoming them all the time. And of course, the sort of tables turned by the time I got to sort of 19, 20 and 21. I'd sort of matured and was capable of looking after myself. And it wasn't until I was 21 that I really fully filled out, matured body wise, and my full strength was there. And Newcastle benefited by that. But for kids, don't be concerned about having to play in a particular position. It's always good to go and play in another position. Go and discover the problems. You know, the problems of other positions, so that you understand when you see somebody playing in that position, you understand what their problems are. And I shall never forget when I joined Tunbridge. It was in the league that was about 2 levels down from the Football League itself, Division 4, Division 2 as we now know it, League 2. But Harry Haslam, the manager, before the first game of the season, he selected the team, and I had a number 2 on my back, and I'm left-footed. And I said to him, "Are you going to play me at right back? Because you're putting the number 2 on me." We had a perfectly good left back, a left-footed guy called Vic Akers, who I saw, funnily enough, saw him at the Arsenal game, because he had been a coach for years with Arsene Wenger, with Arsenal, and so he had a great affiliation there, but we started together as kids playing in the Southern League for Tunbridge. But he was left-footed and I was left-footed. He was slightly the more senior, and so he was playing left back. Harry Haslam said to me, "Son, I'm playing you right back because I'm going to ensure that you learn to kick with your right foot." And it was great experience. And so I played at right back for a whole season, and I improved greatly, becoming a two-footed player as opposed to the one-footed player that I was prior to that season. And so it expanded my game. And so my advice is learn to play the game. Learn to play the game in the positions of others, so that you can experience their problems, you can experience how they want to receive a pass. Always learn how your teammates want to receive a pass, and you know, and it can be just a couple of inches played in a slightly different way that suits the player much more than say just pinging it into them. And you know, so always learn that. Take care when passing with others, but most importantly of all, always have the confidence to miss. That, I think, is absolute key to being a success.
And if I remember rightly, that was the title of your book.
It was. Yes, it was a title of one of the books that I've done.
Yeah.
Because that was a book that was actually it was actually written for to help kids and how they should go out in the field and play their game. You know, and I've seen so many players, adult players, playing at league level, who they're really shot shy because they probably missed one earlier in the season, and then they're scared of missing again. If you're going to score, you have to miss.
Well, GM says, thanks for that, Malcolm. You've just made a young kid very happy. So,
bless him. All right, brilliant. Good luck to you. I really do wish you well.
Yeah, good luck. Gavin King, good evening, mate. He says, all right, Steve, any chance Malcolm could give his opinion on which Newcastle player in the last 10 years reminds him of himself?
No, nobody.
No.
Never seen myself in anybody. Never have, never. When you played at the top level, you realise that all players are unique, and so they're really, all players are beyond comparison with others. You can find yourself as a manager having to decide, do I play this guy or do I play that guy? But they're never the same kind of players. And so no, nobody has reminded me of myself. My game, I had great speed, and so I looked to use that always, because it could be devastating on a defence, and so I can't think of anybody that I could say they reminded me of me.
Okay, John Justice Allen from QTech says, would have loved to see Peter Beardsley and Malcolm in their prime lineup for Newcastle. That would have been a sublime pairing, he says.
Yeah, what a player. He really was quite amazing, was Peter.
Ian says, can Malcolm remember doing Phoenix from the Flames with Badil and Skinner? He says they recreated his 5 goals for England versus Cyprus. I remember seeing that. I think it's on YouTube.
I think it is. Oh, yeah. Oh, they really did wind me up on that. But it was done in such brilliant form. Seriously, if you've not seen it, folks, do have a look on YouTube. I'm sure that you'll find it. And it was. I was living over in Milan, in Italy, North Italy at the time, and they came there, and they were just such a funny pair of guys, and that they had all of this thing worked out, and it was just lovely. And afterwards, we went for lunch, and it was wonderful just to sit there listening to the chat going on with them and the film crew, and they were going all over Europe.
For those of you who want to watch it, I've just found it. I've stuck the link in the YouTube chat. You can go and watch it after the show.
Oh, brilliant. Oh, well done, Steve. Oh, yeah. That's great.
Brilliant, though. Brilliant. Well worth a watch. We'll not spoil it for anybody. Tim Cairns, good evening, mate. He says, did you open a men's boutique in London, Malcolm, when you moved to Arsenal? He says, I used to go into your shop for an 80s browse. Supermac was a trendsetter.
No, I had no plans for doing that whatsoever. The reason why I did it in Newcastle was that, having come up from the south, that Newcastle, I've always thought that that Newcastle shopping serves the Geordie public very well indeed. But I just saw a gap in the market, and thought, right, yes, I know all the people who supply that kind of stuff to fill that gap in the market, and so that's what we did, and very successful it was too, and I still get people now coming up to me and saying, oh, I came into your shop and I bought a pullover. Yeah, very nice it was, but it doesn't fit now. Can I have any money back?
DLAO.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Richard Morris again, he says, Malcolm has always said Terry Hibbert was a great crosser of a ball. Who has he seen since Terry that is even better? Anybody, Mal?
Oh, who is better? Do you know, I'm not great. I'm not impressed by players today with their crossing. Not impressed at all. How many times do you see it cut off by the first man at the near post? And we always used to say, got to beat the first man, got to beat the first man. And as long as you get it past him, then the forwards have always got a chance. But if it's being cut out some yards in front all the while, because if you get in front of that first man to get your head to the ball, say, you're at such an acute angle to the goal itself that you're never going to be able to direct it goalwards. The angle's so narrow that you just can't do it. So so do watch when you're watching your football. Watch how many times the first man is hit. I'll tell you who. Oh, yeah. A terrific cross of the ball was a County Durham lad, Dave Thomas, who's back up living in County Durham, bless him. And I played with. He played for QPR, and while he was playing there, he played in the England squad, and he set me up for a number of goals with his crossing. Absolutely tremendous. But who in the modern game, you know, as I say, I'm just very disappointed at the standard of crossing, at the standard of corner kicks as well. That's something that sides really should be working hard at. They fall short all too often. And also, it's the kind of cross that is coming in that dictates where you go as a forward, where you take your position up. And if you watch now that for a corner kick or for a free kick, let's take a corner kick first. But players, they just go and stand, and they're all around the edge of the 6-yard box. What you never see is somebody coming out and then coming in on a run. And if you come in on a run, you could always get loads of feet above the standing jumper because you're on a run, and it gives you greater momentum. You get much higher. But I never see players on a run getting a header at goal. Yes, I did. Joe Linton away. Was it down at Brentford?
Yeah, yeah.
In on the far post, absolutely terrific. And as a player, as a manager, see that, and I would just encourage the player to do it again and again and again. But I've not seen Joe Linton do that much at all. So it's such a shame. If you find a bit of a winning formula, which he did for that particular game, scoring that particular goal, do it all the time. But it was as if he didn't learn, and I didn't see him getting into those positions again. I can't think of somebody who is a good crosser of a ball these days.
Better than Terry. Blue Rhythm Boy. We've got about 7 or 8 minutes left. See if we can get through the last of these questions. Question from Mal: did you ever score against Newcastle after you left us? And if so, did you celebrate the goal? And do you think players should celebrate against former clubs? It doesn't bother me, he says.
Well, I think that there's going to be a number of people who are watching and listening to this, screaming at their screens. You obviously didn't see him playing his first game against Newcastle. What happened was that, of course, I joined Arsenal, and we were playing Newcastle at home on the Saturday. There was freezing weather, and all pitches throughout the country were frozen solid, and therefore there was only one game on in the whole country, and that was the Arsenal-Newcastle game, because Arsenal were the only club with under-soil heating. And so the BBC Match of the Day cameras were all switched from wherever it was they were going to be and redirected to go set up at Highbury, because the game was guaranteed to be on. And on the Friday, Alan Ball came into the dressing room, and he said, and he had a newspaper in his hand, and he said, "Have I seen this load of old crap?" And he was going absolutely berserk, waving this newspaper, and he took a couple of pages out of the sports section, and he went across to the notice board, and he pinned these pages up, and he said, "Get yourselves across here and read that load of crap." And it was Gordon Lee, and he was having such a go at me. He was calling me all sorts, and so when everybody had read it, we usually then we would have a team talk on the Friday after training, and everybody had read this. So it was, and the managers wanting to get on with the team talk, and Paulie said, never mind that, and he went round all the players and he said, we are going to murder them tomorrow. How dare they talk about our centre forward like that? And he just wound everybody up. He came in the next day, still winding everybody up, and it really worked. Paulie had this infectious way of getting everybody really stirred, and so we went out and we finished up winning the game 5-3, and I scored a hat-trick in it. I didn't see it as any slight to Newcastle or the players or the supporters, but I walked over to Gordon Lee and I just said, stick that up, you. Where the sun don't shine.
Okay, we've got about 4 or 5 minutes left. Let's see what we can get through. Tom Dixon asks one which we can answer about this week's England games. He says, have you been watching the England games, Mal? It looks a hard group they're in. Do you think they will qualify? You know what I think, Mal, before you answer? I just think it's ridiculous. I know we would have had the World Cup normally at this point of the year, but the players look knackered. The players look completely uninterested because it's not a tournament it's not the World Cup, it's not the European Championship. So I get the feeling the players just want to have 4 or 5 weeks off with their families before the Premier League starts early because of the World Cup.
Well, yes, because also with the World Cup, the start of it is being brought forward, and so the players aren't really going to get themselves a holiday. And considering that we've just had 2 years of lockdown where players haven't really been able to get away on holiday with their families, nobody's really been able to get away until this summer. And even then it's total utter chaos. But nevertheless, yes, I find it all quite unnecessary to have a tournament right now. It's going to be one hell of a season coming up, particularly for the Welsh and the English squad players. That all of a sudden, midway through the season, they've got to get packed up and ship out and go and play in the most horrendous temperatures. But I was hugely disappointed with the way that England performed against Hungary. They improved somewhat against Germany, but nevertheless, I thought Germany were a far better side. They were far more energetic and much better organised. And so I haven't been all overly impressed with England whatsoever.
Last question to Vince Smith. He says, I've just watched a DVD where you were talking about Alan Ball in the Cyprus game. He said, did you think you could do it before the match?
Did I think I could do it?
Did you think you would get the record before the Cyprus game when you scored the 5 goals?
I thought I could get the record every game I played. It was goal scoring. That's what I did, and so I went looking to score as many goals as possible, and when you've got people focused in the same manner as you, like Alan Ball, Mick Shannon, Alan Hudson, and they had said before the game, right, we're going to be getting the ball in the box for you, and by heavens they did, all of them, and so you've got to set your sights high, and I have to say that there is something going on in the game, in the modern game of today, how many times do you see a player, and Harry Kane in particular, playing for England, he scores 2 goals and the manager takes him off, substitutes him? What's that all about, for heaven's sake? You know, let him stay on, let him get his hat trick. I really don't understand it. If a manager, when I've scored 2 goals, if a manager tried to get me off, I would go absolutely berserk. I really would. Because I'm a goal scorer. I'm there. I'm scoring goals. I'm going to get more. So, you know, that's my lifeblood, scoring goals. So don't stop me from doing it. I can't do it from the bench, for heaven's sake. Yeah, I would be pretty annoyed on that one. Pretty annoyed. But when I went out, I was very grateful to the guys. They set the whole situation up for me, it would have been nice to have got the 6. That was the absolute record of all the records. But never mind. I got 5. I got the Wembley record.
Brilliant stuff, and a great place to finish. That hour has passed very quickly. Thank you to everybody for sending in their questions. It's always nice when we can do a live Q&A with Malcolm. I'll be back tomorrow night, 4 o'clock at the slightly earlier time, 4 o'clock till 6 o'clock with the 3 amigos and with Keith. Have a great evening, Malcolm, and look forward to catching up with you next week. Take care.
Okay, lovely. And you, Steve. I hope it goes really well for you on Saturday.
Thanks, mate. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.